So you're in a supermarket or a restaurant and you know you want a white wine, but how do you know which one to choose? I honestly think this is one of the most overwhelming things when you start getting into wine. For me, the easiest way that I've found of figuring out which white wines I like is by essentially breaking them down into different characteristics. So things like acidity level, sweetness level, and the body. And by body, I basically mean how heavy it feels in your mouth. And then you can think of each of those characteristics as a bit like a sliding scale. So for acidity, it could be high, low, medium, and so on. The trick is basically to figure out where you like to sit on each of those sliding scales and finding the wines that match your preferences, your flavor profile. The best way to do that is by tasting very different styles of wine alongside each other and figuring out which ones you like and don't like. So that's what we're going to do today. I have 3 very different styles of white wine and we're going to try them and figure out what we like and don't like. So style number 1 is a Viognier, which you can see here. So Viognier is the grape that this wine is made from. It's from the south of France, the Rhône Valley, and a producer called Yves Cuilleron. So with a Viognier, what you usually expect, if we think back to those sliding scales I mentioned, is on the body side, they're usually more medium to full-bodied. They're usually quite high in alcohol, so you're expecting big, punchy, aromatic flavors. But on the acidity scale, it's actually quite low, so it doesn't have that kind of zip and zing that you'd expect from a high-acid wine. So let's give this one a taste. I think that's beautiful. Admittedly, not as much acidity as I'd usually like from a wine, but there's so much else going on with that full-bodied, creamy texture, those aromatic flavors. This is really beautiful. So here we are on style number 2, which you can see here. This is a Sauvignon Blanc, which is another grape, and this one is from New Zealand, and it's called the King's Favour. So let's give this one a taste and think back to those sliding scales we were talking about earlier of the characteristics. So that's exactly what I'd expect from a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. On the acidity scale, I put it pretty high. It's fresh, it's crisp, it's zippy. On the body side, I would say it's quite low body, so it feels more like water on my mouth than cream. Personally, I don't love a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I do like the acidity, I think that's great, but I think I prefer more fuller bodied wines, and also I find them generally just a bit tropical. They taste a bit like fruit squash to me. So personally, it's not for my palate, but so many people love a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, so it just goes to show that it's all about finding what works for you and what works for your flavour profile. So we're on wine number 3, and this is a Chardonnay from Australia. It's called Harmonie Rocks. So with a Chardonnay, you'd usually expect it to be sort of medium acidity, but then after that, the style is actually often dependent on how the wine has been aged. I'll do a full video on this in future because it's a bit complicated. But for example, with this one, if I smell it, I'm getting a lot of kind of vanilla, almonds, those sort of flavors. And that tells me the wine has probably been aged in oak. Whereas if the wine hasn't been aged in oak, it will be much more crisp, acidic. I'd be getting things like more fresh fruit, citrus, melon, and so on. So let's give this one a taste. Definitely creamy, full-bodied, vanilla flavors. Personally, I really like this, but I know for some other people, they really hate these flavors. So it's all about figuring out what works for you. So today we've tried 3 different wines, 3 very different styles. We started off with a low acidity, full-bodied Viognier. Then we went to a high acidity, light-bodied Sauvignon Blanc. And we finished with a medium acidity oak Chardonnay. Now for me personally, I liked 1 and 3 the best because I know that I like fuller-bodied wines with punchy flavors. But people are completely different. So the fun part is trying the different wines and figuring it out for yourself.